Hi, I'm Meshell Sharon. Thanks for joining me again today. Today I wanted to talk about making the best decision with the information you have. Woo! The best way to make decisions. So, let's just take a moment. Throughout the day, we make so many different decisions, right? We decide what time we need to wake up. We decide what we're going to wear. We decide how we're going to do our hair. We decide how fast we're going to drive. Are we going to eat breakfast? Are we going to have coffee? Are we going to have tea? Are we going to have green juice? How are we going to show up even if we woke up when people say on the wrong side of the bed, but how are we going to still show up in the world? We decide how quickly we're going to work, how slow. We decide what we're going to do after work. Some people decide if they're even going to work. We decide what happens for the weekend. We decide how we take care of our money or don't. We decide how we reach out to our loved ones. We decide whose phone call we take and whose phone call we don't. We decide how much social media we're on, and it goes on and on and on and on. And we make these decisions, and sometimes we are making decisions for other people. And we can sometimes get what's called decision fatigue, right? Especially depending on what you do every single day. It can become very exhausting, the decisions that you have to make. And what's really important though is that while some decisions may be small and may lead to nothing, most decisions that we make are leading to something. And so it's important that we understand the decisions that we're making decisions before they become vital to make if we can, and that we're setting our lives up in a way that we are consistently paying attention to what's going on so that we can gather information to make a decision, right? And so let's just take, for example, what we eat throughout the day. So I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is I make sure I have water. Why? Because my body has been fasting. And so I want to make sure the first thing that I put into it is water. Then I may have something to take my vitamins with throughout the day. I'm making this decision because I want to lead a healthy life. I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my insides. I want to make sure that I am doing the best that I can so that I can have a long, healthy life, right? And so why do I make these decisions? Why is it that I drink water the very first thing when I get up in the morning? Well, I gathered more information. I learned, I read, I listened to other health people that were talking about, the best things to do first thing in the morning. I gathered the information so that when I thought about, what's my morning routine? Well, I decided that the first thing I want to do is have water before I have anything else. So we make these decisions, and sometimes the decisions are not just as small leading up to this bigger result. Sometimes the decisions can be life decisions, things that we have to there's a fork in the road and we have to either go left or we have to go right. And it's important that we gather information so that we can make a decision with as much information on the table as possible. So let me just give you an example. Let's say I want to make a decision about which way I'm going to drive this morning, right? So I'm a mom, I drive my son to school. I need to make a decision about which way I drive him. Well, what do I do every single morning, even though I know the way that I'm usually going to take? But because I live in Miami, I'm going to check my, it's not MapQuest anymore. What is it? My Google Maps, right? I'm going to first gather information. Why? Because Google Maps is supposed to know something that I don't know. Google Maps, 9 times out of 10, they're supposed to know where the accidents are. It's supposed to know where the traffic is. It's supposed to tell me how long it's going to take me to get to my final destination. Based on that information, I can now make an informed decision about if I want to take the way I always take or if I want to go a different direction. And this is just a small example when we're looking at when we have to make larger life decisions, because we ultimately have to deal with whatever those consequences are of those decisions, whether it be good or bad. Sometimes, depending on your stance in life, you may be making decisions for other people that they are now also receiving said consequences. And so it's important that we gather information. And I want to talk about where we're going to ask that for that information so that we can make those decisions. And it's important that once we make those decisions and we know that we have made an informed decision, that we are confident in whatever consequences come our way. Does that mean we'll like the consequences? Not all the time, but knowing we can feel confident that we did our due diligence to make the best possible decision we could make. And so whatever those consequences are that come along with it, whether they be what we want or what we don't want to happen, we can feel a sense of confidence that either, okay, I made a good decision, or I should have made a better decision, and next time I'm going to put these steps in place so that I can make this decision. Sometimes the consequences because we just didn't see long enough. We didn't see far ahead enough, right? We didn't ask people. We were moving off of our emotions as opposed to moving off of our intellect or moving off of the information that we had gathered. And so something that my brother taught me, he always says, you make the best decision with the information that you had. And that's always been so calming to me, because we don't always know the outcomes, right? We don't always know how things are going to turn out. But if you know within yourself that you have taken a few of these steps, that you have made an intentional decision, then it only becomes, the consequences, if they're not favorable, can only become a learning opportunity versus making rash decisions, and then they become these negative marks in your life. And so the first way that I have learned to make an informed decision is I ask the Holy Spirit. I really ask, in my prayer time, in my quiet time, I really ask the Holy Spirit, and I say, Holy Spirit, this is the decision before me. What do you want me to do? What do you think I should do? And I wait to listen. I pray, and I provide all the information that I have to the Holy Spirit. I provide my fears to him. I'm scared to do this because this may happen. I'm scared to do that because I'm angry about even having to make this decision, or whatever it is. I lay it all out. One of the, while we love therapists, the most honest being you could possibly be with is the Holy Spirit. And so I first speak to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, what do you want me to do? Which way should I take? And I sit to listen to hear if I hear anything. Sometimes I may hear an audible voice. Sometimes I may go and about my business, watch a movie, read a book, and I may get an answer. Something may show up that allows the path to be easier, which allows me to know that I'm going the right direction. So for example, I've always wanted to, when I was in high school, I wanted to go and complete an EMT program. So EMT is emergency medical technician. I want to ride on fire trucks and do like the emergency care, right? And so when I was in high school, I didn't do it, right? I went against a decision that I thought I should have made, and I decided not to do it. Well, when I got a little bit older, I decided this is something I still wanted to do. And so I decided that I was going to do it. Now, I thought I was crazy doing this. I knew I was going to be the oldest in my class. I knew that it was going to be it could be tough, right? Because I'm not as young as most people that are going into the program were going to be. But this is something that I really wanted to do. And I felt like I was in good enough shape that I'd be able to go and be okay doing it. It was like a 3-month program. I'm like, I'm a strong girl. I can tough this out. So I went to do the program, and everything lined up, because again, I presented it to the Holy Spirit, but everything lined up with such ease. And that for me, everything is not easy, but for me, over the course of my life, I've begun to understand, which we'll get to in number 4, but I've begun to understand when I'm walking in the right decision. There's a certain ease that comes with the decisions. There's a certain pathway that comes with the decisions, and you have to find what that feels like when you make a decision that you're going the right direction. So everything has such an ease in the process, right? I didn't know how I was going to pay for the program. Comes to find out, there was a scholarship that covered the full cost. Then on top of them covering the full cost of the program, they even gave out a free unboxed, like totally free laptops, right? And so the schedule worked out perfectly. Like everything was just lining up. And so I knew that I was making the right decision. I knew this is finally the time that I was able to do something that I really, really wanted to do. And the path was just being made straight for me. And so it's really important that the first thing we do is we always present it to the Holy Spirit. And when we ask the Holy Spirit, we sit and we wait for him to respond, or we look for answers. One of my answers has been, when it comes to school, is the tuition gets paid. Just, that's an easy answer. Like, the tuition gets paid, I can get my books, great, we're going, right? Provision has been a way that I've known that I was making the right decision. And so that's the first thing that we do. Number 2, do research. Okay, read, ask people smarter than you, gather statistics, gather data, look at reviews, look at don't be afraid to, or don't be so inside yourself, or so move in such pride that you're scared to ask other people about your decisions, or ask other people about things that you're facing, or reading a book about somebody else that has done something that you may want to do. Get the information. You can only make the best decision when you have information that you're working with. So do the research to find out, what is this going to cost me? If it works, what does that look like? If it doesn't work, what does it look like? And can I handle either one of those routes, right? So number 1, ask the Holy Spirit. Number 2, do your research. Number 3, ask people that you trust, right? So you want to ask people that maybe have already done what it is that you want to do. So I saw a quote that said, only trust advice from people whose lives you want to switch with. Yes, that has some validity to it, but at the same time, sometimes you don't have to want somebody's entire life. You may just want to glean from the experience that they've had. Just because somebody is not currently in a state that you want to be doesn't mean that they have not had experiences that could help you. I have gotten some of the best advice from people who were not currently in the situation that I would want to trade with, but they had life experiences, or they had encountered things that I was able to learn the lesson from them without ever experience what they had experienced. So don't discount people, but always be willing to learn from people that you trust their advice. They give you sound advice, and you'll know, but that will give you sound advice and then at the same time, aside from that, people that you actually trust, whose lives you do want to trade with, right? People who, or even then another side to that is people that love you. Sometimes people that love you are scared. So you got to know the scary people in your life, right? The scary people, you have to always hear what they say, but don't always take it as the thing. But still hear, because sometimes even from people that love you, when they put their fear on you, you can still read through that and say, okay, this is not going to be, their fear won't deter me, but I am going to look out for the thing that they're scared of, right? I am going to look out and say, is this thing coming? Is this the thing that they were afraid of? So then you can not guard yourself, that's not the right word. You can equip yourself just in case that's the thing. So when I told people I was going to go skydiving, and they were like, what if the parachute doesn't work? Well, when I went to the place, I asked them, what happens if the parachute doesn't work, right? So it didn't stop me from going to do this thing, but it did help me to have other questions or more information that I maybe not have thought to ask, to then go forward and say, okay, let me get more information. So ask people that you trust, ask people that care about you, and then always hear, but don't just let it immediately go to your heart. Hear what everyone has to say, and then take that information, synthesize it, and then make the best decision you can. And then that leads to number 4, which is trust yourself. You have the Holy Spirit, but you also have intuition, or what other people make other names for. But you have a sense of knowing. Each one of us has a sense of knowing. And sometimes we have to trust ourselves. We have to trust the God in us. We have to trust our own mind. We have to trust the things that we see. We have to trust that we have to make decisions in life. And whether I get it right or whether I get it wrong, it's my decision, right? And so it's important that we ask the Holy Spirit. We do the research. We ask people that care about us, love us, or people whose lives that we may want to emulate. But then it's so important that we trust ourselves. There's a lot of decisions that I did not make, or I guess I made them anyways, but the opposite way than the way I would have taken, because I was afraid of my own self. I was afraid that if I made this decision and it went wrong, what were the people who told me not to make that decision were going to say? Who was going to be there to clean up the mess if I made a decision anti what people told me to do, right? And so you never, ever, ever allow fear to make decisions for you. Always move in faith. Always make decisions in faith with information, with, of course, solid advice, solid plans, as solid as you can possibly get it. Because when you walk with God, sometimes things aren't solid, right? But it's so important, number 4, to really trust yourself. And then trust when you make a decision and it turns out great, trust what that decision felt like. So often I see people do things and then they just move on from them. No, sit with that decision. I made this decision. What did it feel like when that decision, when you were making that decision? How did your brain feel? How did your mind feel? How did your heart feel? How did your stomach feel, right? Who did you listen to? Did you hear the Holy Spirit that time? Did you listen to yourself that time? Did you listen to this website? What did that look like? Because there's going to be so many more decisions that you have to make. It's important that you have a path for what it genuinely feels like when you're going to get it right. And so we all are going to make these decisions. The goal is to not have regrets. The reason that I can live with, I literally, I was talking to someone yesterday, I literally have 0 regrets, not one. And the reason I don't have any regrets is because I own every single decision that I've made, every single decision. And if I don't feel good about the decision that was made, I still take it as a lesson learned, right? And I take it as I'm living life to the best of my ability. So I can live 100% without regret. And I know I have made some crazy decisions, and I will always make crazy decisions, but I know that they're my decisions for the taking. And so that is what I wish for all of you, that you, number 1, ask the Holy Spirit before you make a decision. Number 2, do your research. Number 3, ask people that you care about that care about you. And number 4, trust yourself. So I want you to talk back to me. Have you made some decisions that you were proud of, or maybe you weren't proud of? What did that feel like? What is your process for making decisions? What are some other pointers that you can give me or my son for how he can make the best decisions moving forward? While you're here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my podcast, and just, come visit me over on Instagram. I want to have a conversation with you, so share with me. And always, next time, I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.